Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of BHHSeries. My name is Aline, and I'm the Chief Digital Officer of Barcelona Health Hub. So today it's number 14, episode 14 already. So we changed a bit the format today. So we'll have a Firechat with two successful entrepreneurs from Spain. So Ana she's from Spain, but she's based in the US, and Frederic is based in. So we wanted to discuss with them to understand a bit what they've been doing in their careers, what they learned, the mistake they made, what they learned from those mistakes. And for you, like maybe if you've got some digital health entrepreneurs watching us today, so you can learn from them. So we're gonna start. So I would like to welcome first Ana. So Ana Maiques, she's the co-founder and CEO of Neuroelectrics. Ana, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you.
And so Ana is also, I would like to congratulate you because you was recently named as one of the most inspiring women in Europe a few months ago. So that's great. Congratulations for that. So Ana, let's start about your company. Can you tell us more? What is Neuroelectrics?
So Neuroelectrics is a very proud Barcelonian-born company, but global company. I'm calling you from the US, where we launched operations a few years ago. And what we have developed at the company with our amazing team in Barcelona is this technology that, of course, I'm wearing. This is a wireless medical device that I'm wearing right now, and it does two things. It can monitor your brain activity, so reading your brain waves, which is called EEG, and it can help to diagnose epilepsy, sleep disorders, and other disorders. But any of the electrodes that I'm wearing here can inject currents into the brain. So what we are most excited is that we think that this can become a new therapy for many, many patients in need. And we are involved in two FDA trials, one on epilepsy, the other in depression. And the idea is that this technology made in Barcelona will be worn at home by patients with brain diseases and will be able to help them with this new non-invasive electrostimulation therapy. So that's what we are aiming for.
Fantastic. So, as everybody knows, those past weeks, those past months have been quite challenging for the startups. And Ana, there's a sentence you told me, like you sent me an email like a few weeks ago when you received the good news from FDA. We're going to talk about that after. But you told me that when the pandemic can become a huge opportunity. And I really like that sentence. So maybe can you tell us, in your case, how that pandemic became a huge opportunity for you?
Well, I think that the pandemic has been very harsh in everyone, in our team, in our families. It has been a very scary, changing moment. So I think it's really hard on the world, but on the other side, for companies like us that we are doing telemedicine, going for home, digital opportunities, I think that it's really game changing. I think that telework and telemedicine are here to stay, and Neuroelectrics always wanted to go home with its technology. So I think the pandemic just accelerated the adoption of telemedicine. I was listening yesterday to a podcast by the Delta CEO, the airlines here in America, and he was saying that a crisis doesn't define character, it reveals your character. And I think that what I have made an effort during this pandemic is to keep as optimistic as I can. I've never lost 1 cent of faith in Neuroelectrics, in our vision. So I think it reveals our characters, that no matter how hard life is out there, entrepreneurs and CEOs, we have to remain positive and, just like they say in the US, just pivot, just find a way to fulfill your vision in the most adverse situation. So I have really kept optimistic and revealed the true character of our company, that we will make it and we will keep on being successful.
And I think, that's really like for me, a trait of like a real serial entrepreneur, like you are, like Freddy is. Like I was also talking to a friend of mine this week, he's in the US, and he also like made the most of the actual situation to create a new solution, partner with someone. I'm like, this is just amazing. And that's, entrepreneurs can really do that. It's very, very inspiring. And so Ana, maybe so if you can talk a bit about so that good news that you shared was that so the FDA launched a fast track during the pandemic, and you received that fast track stamp. So can you tell us more what that fast track is about for the people who are not too familiar with it, and why it's a good news for the entrepreneurs like you?
Yeah, so our relationship with the FDA, when we came to the US, we launched an epilepsy pivotal clinical trial at Boston Children's for epileptic, children, and during the pandemic, we realized that there were patients, like depression patients, that could not access their treatments because of COVID. So what they did is we went to an IDE fast track with the FDA. So we defined and we designed a completely new protocol to do everything at home. So we presented to the FDA in 2 weeks a completely new study to be done at home, claiming that all these patients with major depressive couldn't go to the hospital to receive electroshocks or TMS, which are other sorts of electrostimulation. And what is amazing with the FDA with this fast track is that in 2 weeks they responded to us on a positive way. So Neuroelectrics now has the permission of the FDA to start sending devices home of patients with depression and do a feasibility, safety, and down the line pivotal study at home, to see if we can help patients with depression at home without going to the clinic. So I think that's amazing. First, the reaction time of the FDA. Second, the fact that they are approving digital interventions so fast. And I think third, that the impact this is going to have on patients, because these patients that are receiving my technology, we don't even see them. It's all Zoom, it's all, web based. So this is history. I think it has never been done before under the FDA watch that you can do brain stimulation at home. So, another, example of how the pandemia can really make everyone, including the FDA, more risk taker, more innovative, and more accelerate innovation and help startups like Neuroelectrics.
And could we expect that fast track to carry on after the pandemic, or is that really just for the time of the current pandemic?
So for the moment, it's restricted to the pandemic. So it's in this pandemic situation that we are allowed to do this. But I think that all the data we are collecting on safety and feasibility will help us to then amend that fast track into a serious pivotal at-home design. So I think that it's restricted to the pandemic, but as I have said, telemedicine is here to stay. And I think the FDA and other organizations in the world are going to be adopting telemedicine and digital solutions faster than ever before.
Okay, fantastic. So I would like to talk a bit about the US market now, because you did what many European companies, Spanish companies would like to do, is to move their headquarters to the US. So can you tell us why you chose the US, and what was the biggest challenge entering the US market, like settling your headquarters over there?
Well, first, the headquarters is in Barcelona. So we are a Barcelonan headquartered company, and US is our, corporation company. So we came to the US because I think that in life sciences, especially if you want to approach the FDA, it's really important to have a US presence. And that's why we came to the US. We also had a market of hundreds of clients already in the US, and we felt the need to be closer. And Boston was, a paradise for us. Is where the hospitals, the MIT, all the, life sciences action is happening in the US. As you've been with me here in Boston, so you know how Boston is. I think that the challenge for European is, I was a small rock star in Barcelona, and when I came to Boston, I was no one, right? So that's the first thing. And there are people like 1,000 times smarter than me in Boston. There's all these MIT and Harvard graduates are smart, like you can't believe. And competition is crazy. So, I wasn't used to this level of competition and like waking up with your knife in your mouth and fighting for your place. That was something that was so shocking to me, because in Barcelona, if you're good and you do well, you get your fruits. But here, there's no option. If you don't fight, you die. So you cannot choose not to compete. If you're in the race, you wake up and you run. And that was shocking to me, because I realized that our European culture is much different. We haven't been trained to compete in such a wild way. So I had to get up to speed. I mean, people, investors or doctors were giving me 15-minute meetings. Can you believe it? So in 15 minutes, you have to introduce yourself, learn what they want, and get out with an action point. I mean, this was a completely new way of doing business in my life, right? So I would say that it has been harder and more challenging business culture that I would have expected. So I think that the US and Europe are very, very different, difficult places. But Europeans, I mean, I think we have the talent. So we made it. I'm very happy. I think Neuroelectrics is a total success in the US, but I think that we haven't been trained to compete here.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I wasn't trained.
But I really see you like as a kick-ass woman. You're very successful. So I think it's amazing all the work you've been doing, all the money that you raised. And I was also very amazed, like when I met you last time in Boston, like I didn't know that you were also the mom of 4. I think that's, you're just like dealing with everything at the same time. So I think that that's very impressive. So maybe what's the secret, for many women out there to be like a successful CEO and a full-time mom at the same time? And I think it's possible, right?
Well, yeah, I think that they sold us this lie that you have to choose between career and family, and I just don't buy it. I've never bought it. I never buy giving up or anything. I just don't get it. So I think that you have to first choose a good husband. So rule number 1, who did you marry to have kids? Like that's the smartest situation in your life is like, who is your partner? Because this is not about women. This is about, this is a couple that makes kids, right? So I think that who you marry is really important. How do you split responsibilities? Like my husband and I, we travel throughout the world, but we never travel together. So when one is out, the other is at home. The kids, they don't care if mom or dad is at home, right? And I think being an entrepreneur, it helps to have that flexibility. But I have lots of women in my organization and Neuroelectrics, and I think that you just have to adapt. And I think that you are much more productive when you have kids than when you don't have, because every minute counts. So you just make the most of your time. So I really think it's doable. But if you have kids, you have to find the time for them. So for young women who wants to become moms, I think that you just have to make sure you have a good work balance. If I go on a trip for 2 or 3 days, then I take a day off. Just don't allow yourself to be burnout, because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So I think that you have to be wise about your energy and where you put your hours, right?
Exactly. That's really great. And so so related to that, we talk a lot about the fact that there is only like still a very low percentage of women in C-level position globally. What do you think we can do to change that?
Well, I'm a women CEO. My co-founder is a wonderful man who also values women. Our managing director in Barcelona is a woman, Yolanda.
Yeah.
A lot of my management team are women. So one of the things that happens is, I think that if you have a diverse C-level team, I tend to look for women always. So I think you have women and diverse profiles, Black people, all diversity. They are there. They are just harder to find. So I think that, as they say in the US, you have to do the extra mile. You have to work a bit harder to find those people. But I think that if you have a diverse team, it just brings diversity. Like I watch the backs of women. I try if I can to get women as much as I can, and all my team does. So I think that, I think that's the secret. Just empower women, empower diversity, and make those empowered people underneath. And it's like like a chain reaction. That's what I really think.
And I think that also resonates to me with Nina Capital. So it's a fund based in Barcelona, and you are one of the venture partner at Nina Capital. And that's exactly one of the value, like diversity and having like maybe women on the board or etc. And so talking about Nina, how important is it, according to you, to have funds that are dedicated to digital health, more biotech in your side, rather than like a generic fund when you look for investment?
I mean, I'm talking to a lot of medtech investments and digital. I mean, I think it's really good, but on the other hand, it kind of pisses me off, in the worst, because I just hate I hate the silos in healthcare. When I look at a depression patient or an epileptic patient in my trials, they don't care what you give them. If you have epilepsy or if you have depression, you just want to get better. You don't care. They give you an app, they give you a medical device, they give you a drug. So I think it really annoys me that the venture world is also structured in silos, because I think it's the wrong way to look at healthcare. And so I think it's good to drive attention, but down the line, I love to work here with pharma companies, with other players, because the future is going to be multimodal and should be patient oriented, not silo delivery oriented, the drug companies, the medtech companies. And so that's why I like it, but I don't like it at the same time. It raises, the brand of digital, but it just creates a silo that I think it shouldn't exist.
Okay. Well, Ana, thank you for that. Now we're gonna go to Freddy, and then we're gonna come back and have a discussion, the three of us. Freddy, welcome. So Freddy is Frederic Llordachs. He's a medical director by training. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's an investor and a digital health guru in Barcelona. So welcome today. Pleasure.
Not digital. This digital guru thing is maybe too strong, but okay, if you say it, why not?
I do. So Freddy, you trained as a doctor. You're MD, but then you decided that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. So you did different things, like you started different companies. So what attracts you in entrepreneurship? Why did you decide to be an entrepreneur and not to be a doctor, for instance?
Well, this is I think that it was a natural path. So at the end of the day, I started I finished my medicine degree, and then you can be, if you are good enough or smart enough, you go to get a good specialty, and especially in Spain, and I just took the other path, that is, okay, let's try an MBA. I did an MBA, as you know, in ESADE, that's a business school here in Barcelona. And I, as a doctor, we have no idea about business. So it was a great discovery, the business world. Then when I finished that, I was for several years in health insurance companies here in Spain. So then is when I learned, not only as a doctor, but as a manager, how was this industry, and which were the dynamics of the industry, and which was the language of the manager, which was the language of the doctors, even the language of the patients in some way. So and then is when you realize there is a point and a moment that I guess that happens to anybody, that when you discover that this will move to the internet space, because sooner or later, if companies are doing things in the internet, and I'm talking in the early 20s, in the early 21st century, if people is doing things in companies are doing things in the internet, sooner or later people will go to do things in the internet, and it will be plenty of offer and plenty of things to be done, and there will be nothing in healthcare. And it was that. So then I remember that was one day in my job in the health insurance company, and is when I said, "Come on, you must go to the internet industry in one way or another." So I had no idea about what to do on that, and it's when I started to look for things to be done. No, so about a domain, and that related, that was Doctoralia. And then I just was looking for a fit with the domain about what kind of services could we give, and it was in 2003 that we started to launch the first version of Doctoralia, that it was a medical directory, that it was very advanced for the time here, especially here in Spain, but maybe too advanced for that moment. No? And then things started to move on. So just doing at the same time, working as an employee, and at the same time developing like a plan B, or the startup, or the idea of having a startup, or the idea of having an internet digital health project.
And so you just mentioned that you launched Doctoralia 2003, right? That was too early. Then you tried to launch a second time it didn't work, and finally the third time it works. What did you learn from the first and second times?
Well, that's very interesting. So in the beginning, 2003, nobody was doing had. I mean, I always explain the same thing, that internet in 2003 was something that you used for the email, and not much more than that in your job, if you were in a corporate, or in the night 1-2 hours with the porn. Okay, so it was something for several moments in the day. So instead of having a great idea that was very based in the hotels and the reservation systems that other industries had in B2B, the idea of having online appointment for doctors, it was too advanced for the industry and for the moment, especially here in Spain. So we learned that maybe you could have a good idea, but it must be realistic, and you must have this fit with the reality we are living. So maybe you can be too visionary in some ways. And this was the first time. The second time, we were with a great idea that was trying to help to help the banks to have to do medical checkups for the mortgages, and it was a real problem they had. So they had to stop. They have blocked the mortgages in these moments when Spain was a rich country and everybody was buying flats and houses like crazy. And well, it was we had a perfect solution to make this follow up of the clinical checkups that were part of the life insurance that they had to have linked to that. No, so we had the niche, we had the product, we had the service that it was needed, but in that point we found that the bank we were talking about didn't wanted to pay a dollar for that, because hey, this is a problem I have, but I won't pay nothing for that. The guys that were involved in the checkup said, I don't want to pay nothing. So we had the product, we had the place, we had the perfect timing even, but we didn't have a customer. And this was the second painful thing we learned, that if you don't have customers, you have nothing. So because nice products, you can see around the startup world, nice products growing and having a big hype, and then suddenly they disappear because nobody is buying them, or not buying at the level that they had the idea it would be. So then it's something that maybe the most of the people that is involved in startups are product people, and this is a problem because they should be sales people or at least having very clear with their sales path. In other case, they will die sooner or later because even investors, the thing that they are looking for is sales, and this sales tracking is very important for them. So for me, is the other second thing that we learned. And then at the third time, it was, I mean, we were in the perfect moment, that it was when Steve Jobs made this, and presented in 2007 the iPhone. And well, that was the moment for me when everybody the world became digital 24/7, and then there was a real need for services in 24/7. And one of the things that we did that there weren't available in Spain and in many other countries, it was the list and the option to make appointments with healthcare professionals. And this is what we launched with Doctoralia, and not only in Spain, but also working remotely in Latin America, and that made us so successful in that point, to the point that we made where we merged with Doc Planner 3 years ago. Yeah, time flies, and we are probably now altogether the most relevant company in that number of users. We have about 400 million users yearly, and 12 million monthly appointments. And instead of that, and the other thing that we learned that is a plus, is that with the COVID, I was very interested with what Ana was saying about the COVID and the pandemic as an opportunity, because for us it has been an opportunity to defy ourselves, to do something that we were postponing, that it was launching a video telemedicine tool for our doctors and patients. And it's something that our team did. All the company, all the engineers, all the 1,000 people aligned like a man in 2 weeks. So we were able to launch a tool that has been very useful in 2 weeks, a tool that has been used for near 700,000 patients in the COVID and growing. No, that means that if you have the right challenge, and you are able to move to the challenge and to embrace it, you can do great things if you are with the good people.
Fantastic. So if we fast forward a bit, so you mentioned that Doctoralia was like merged with DocPlan a few years ago, but on the side you did a lot of things. You had different companies, like real estate. You're an entrepreneur with different projects, and then you decided to start BrainCats, like a bit to help the startups, to help other companies with what you learn in those different ventures. So where do you think the startups need the most help? And maybe what did you learn also from the companies you've been working with those past years?
Well, for me, it's interesting. So we have been investing and even helping small startups in the healthcare, digital healthcare arena. And sometimes is the point that they are too good in their field, that they are not good expressing themselves. So I love the experience, the Ana's experience about this 15 minutes meeting. I bet whatever you want that most of the startup founders that all we know aren't able to do that in a regular basis. I mean, with a success at the end. So we are very slow presenting, and we are so exhaustive presenting, and we are very bad communicating, saying what the other part wants to hear about our project. And most of the time is not about the money, it's about how you ask for the money. And most of the time is not about the product, it's about how you sell the product. And for me, this is the interesting thing. The challenging thing is to discover, and as much as deep as we have helped people, as better have been the results based on that, based on how should you, and first to understand which is your industry, so which is your arena, who are your competition, and where are your customers. That is the other thing. And then going for the customers, that is not so easy. So going for the customer, sometimes people think that if the product is good, most of the times entrepreneurs think that if the product is great, is awesome, people will call them. And this never happens, and they don't understand why. And even they go to outside, I mean, around the world, you have been in as many places, I mean, and even more in exhibitions and venues, and you see people that are so happy with themselves and are so proud of their product that they don't listen to the other guys, what are they talking about your product, about where should they go, or even I have recommended a lot of people moving to the States, for instance, because they didn't have a place for their product in Spain. That is a very regulated market, that is very, very competitive, and that it's very tiny because you have a lot of you have the public healthcare operators that are very massive, luckily for the population, but very bad for the startups, because it's very difficult to introduce a new product or a new service in a public healthcare facility. So and most of them never say thank you. So they said, okay, you don't want me here because I'm competition, and they would succeed instead of that. Okay, that's it. So that's their opinion. But in my point of view, there are a lot of opportunities, not necessarily here, but maybe in third world countries, maybe Latin America, maybe, I don't know, even other industries. So with a solution that can fit with another industry, not healthcare, maybe you should try it somewhere, no? or make the effort to think about that. And well, this is the interesting. So at the end of the day, is sales, the thing that you must have.
And let's talk a bit about money. So you're also like business angel who've been investing in different companies. And I'm curious to know, so I know that you invested at least one company with a women CEO.
Yes.
And we complain a lot that it's harder for women to raise money than men. How was your experience? Like, how is the treatment with women? What are women doing better than men when it comes to go to investors or?
Well, I think that now is the best time ever to be a woman co-founder. So there is a lot of sensitivity about this about this equality and things like that. No, I mean, and this is not a question of charity. So okay, let's help women. No. Women are as good as men, of course, if not better. If better managing teams, better doing results. So there are a lot of publications about how women's companies, women startups succeed in a higher percentage than men. But this is not. I mean, but this is like like stock market. So past profit doesn't mean future profit. Okay, so you never know, and every case and every situation is different. For me, it's not a question, and the question about this. I mean, I'm a 51-year-old man, okay, and that means that I have also a problem when I go to raise money because people this is ask for money. This is ask for people that this is ask for projects that are led by people under 30, and this is also a problem if you want to raise money, and even and this is something that well, we can also discuss one of these days, because also the statistics says that startups with more than with CEOs older than 45 years old have much better results at the end of the day. And well, so if we want to look to the empty part of the glass, we can also complain about we are women, or we are old people, or we are, I don't know, we are from Africa, or we are okay. So it's not about complaining. It's about going and doing things and being a strong person as Ana, because thinking, okay, we are Barcelonians, but you move to Boston. I mean, hey, chapeau, hat tip, because really is taking decisions and is doing things. It's not about asking for money. It's about going for it. And this is how the world works. And I mean, and competition. And when you start something, you have one competitor that is the guy that has the customer nowadays, and this guy has maybe more resources than a small country, and you must go against that and look like somebody friendly for these people, and even looks like somebody interesting, because maybe they are your exit. Okay, so that means that you need some quality, a special way of treating people. You need more, not be only a product people. You need be also a people, not a product person, also a people's person. So and this is for me more important than being a man, a woman, or or I don't know, or a unicorn. So no, at the end of the day, is you need the bollocks to get your luggage and moving, get your luggage, take a plane before the COVID, and after, we hope that after the COVID too, and going to sell your product, your idea, your project around the world.
Fantastic. Ana, do you want to comment on what Freddy just said, maybe?
Yeah, I think that he's totally right, and I second what he says. I mean, I completely feel like a global company. So it's true, we were born in Barcelona. These are our headquarters, but we sell now our device in more than 45 countries. And I'm constantly talking to Hong Kong, Korea, Japan. I'm based in the US. Most of my team is in Barcelona. So I really have the global mindset in my mind every single day when I wake up, and I think there are patients suffering from depression all over the world. So it is my role as Neuroelectrics to serve all the patients, not only the Catalans, not only the Spanish, not only the Europeans. And it's true that maybe in Barcelona we don't have that vision. We think that if we sell in Madrid or we sell above the Pyrenees in Europe, we are super successful. And the honest truth is that this is a global world, and when you're in the US, you can sense how it's true that they believe they are the center of the world, but I disagree. I mean, talent is everywhere. Just look at Eastern countries. I'm the European Innovation Council of the Commission, and the innovation that is coming from Estonia, from Bulgaria, from the Czech Republic, the Eastern European countries are the new innovators of Europe. So talent is everywhere, but you have to have ambition and the vision to grow, to have global companies. And I think that's what we need to really, teach to our entrepreneurs, that if you have a good product and a good solution, you have to sell it everywhere, not only in Spain or in Europe.
Meaning that also maybe the market where you live is not the best market to start, right? Maybe it's better, maybe like you did to.
Well, I don't know. I like Peter Thiel's book, where he says that, to grow a successful business, you have to conquer a small market first. And I kind of agree. So I think that you need to start probably small, but really controlling your market and being champion in a very specific niche, and then scale up. So we Neuroelectrics, we started selling to researchers worldwide, and we learned to manufacture devices.
Oh, we lost Ana. Yeah, we lost. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we lost Anna for a second. So now we were actually just arriving perfect timing for the Q&A session. So if you have some question for our speakers, you can just like type your question in the chat and we're gonna address in a minute. So there's already one in there. But Freddy, let me start. I want to ask you both questions about your pathway, your career as entrepreneur, and tips that we can. Yeah, we can hear you, Anna.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, Aline. Go ahead.
Yeah. So now and I don't know if you could listen to us, but I want to ask you both some question about like entrepreneurship and your career and tips that we can share with the audience who is listening to us today. And the people can also make some questions. Already some question, like one for you, Anna, that we can address in a second. My first question for you would be, so I consider both of you as serial entrepreneur, you're a real entrepreneur. And can we learn to be an entrepreneur? Or were you born an entrepreneur? Ana?
Well, go for Ana.
I think that you can learn, but there's some attributes that an entrepreneur should have. So, for example, if you have risk aversion, if you are not a pusher, if you are not ambitious, if you are not a leader, so there are things you have to have in yourself to become an entrepreneur and a leader. But I think that you learn how to be an entrepreneur. You just have to have some skills. So if you are averse to risk, if you want a very controlled life, then you cannot be an entrepreneur. You will never learn that because you will be in constant fight with yourself, right? So that's my experience.
Very interesting. Ready?
Well, I'm absolutely agree. So you need you will, at the end of the day, again, you will become an entrepreneur because life will take you to this point. So, but in this way, you must make some decisions. So, and there are decisions about the risk, about if you marry or not with the right person. That is a good point. About if you are willing to have a nice house with a white fence, or maybe you're taking your things and believe that you have a great thing to sell, and you need of course a sales side in you. No, so you must think like a sales guy of your company, even of yourself. I would say so. So this is for me and this is something that I had in the past. So I was in Matrix with with this preloaded code that helps you to be more more open-minded, maybe even, and that is the other thing. So for me, it makes you can learn the books, but you must put that in practice, and of course, taking life decisions and making life decisions to become an entrepreneur, and this is a personal decision.
Okay. And so along your career, like what best advice did you receive? So that can be, like as an entrepreneur or like as a person, and an advice that you applied and that has been serving you all those years. The best advice, Ana?
I think that the best advice is resilience. I think that why some entrepreneurs are more successful than others is because we keep on trying. It's not about not giving up. It's just finding, pivoting. I think that my best lesson learned is like, I've been an entrepreneur now for 19 years or 20 years. I mean, do you know what it is to wake up during 20 years and never give up on your vision? It just takes a lot of time to be successful, and it takes a lot of work. But if you don't give up and you really believe in what you do, you will succeed. But you have to be honest with yourself and then, persevere.
Okay. Ready? What was your best advice?
The resilience, it was good. It was a good one. And the other one is laser focus. That is the other thing. So you really have an entrepreneurial personality. You feel seduced for every day for 100 ideas per day, every day, one after another, because you see opportunities around. And you must be very strict with yourself and focus, and not trying to conquer the world, but focus on in one thing at a time, and be very, very, very vertical. But and then test if it works, and if it doesn't work, put the focus in another thing. So this is how can you really move to the right path, to the right way, to succeed in which is your project. So for me is but I really like the resilience, the resilient personality that I remember the first time the first time somebody told me the word in Spanish. As you know, resilient, it was not a usual word, and I remember somebody that all we know, and I won't mention, that told me, you are very resilient. And I went to to Google when I left the meeting, and I saw the meaning. I saw, come on, you're a fucking crazy guy, just just pushing and pushing and pushing. Okay, I like it. And that is the idea. You must be every day like crazy, just pushing and pushing and pushing. And at one point, and then if you are doing all day long, bang, 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 pushing at one point, you will break this point and you will go on. And if it really makes sense, do it. And the other, and the one more thing for me, it would be, but wait for the right moment, because you can, if you don't have, you are not in the right moment, and this is something that we learn with Doctoralia, things can be very bad, can work very bad for you, and you can really suffer a lot, because maybe you are too advanced or your solution is too advanced for the time, for the moment, for the environment, and this is the other thing that is interesting. So for me, it's really people like Ana or the biotech people that really can stand 10 to 20 years just pushing the same concept, the same idea, the same project, until they really won, really are the best winners, and they deserve all the money they can get, because it's very hard mentally to be so many times focused in the same thing, and to see that their world is very slow on that. So the trials, the FDA clearance, all things are so slow and so expensive, and you must have so many people backing you, and you must be all day long convincing people to back you with money, that really, hey, congratulations. I would never do it.
Yes, you would. I know you would, Frederic.
You've done so many things. You could. So now let me ask you a question about, if you think about your entrepreneur's life, So, all what you've been doing. What is the most challenging for you? So is it like starting a company, like making your first sale, getting investment, like making the decision to close a company, to pivot a company? How was your experience? What was the most challenging? Freddy?
Well, as usual, the most challenging thing is closing. So we see that the party is over and there is and that things won't go well, and is when you feel a better taste in your mouth. But at least think, okay, but I'm alive, okay, and the things go well. And this I could say that in the first two foundations of Doctoralia, it was about that, and even now as investor. I have experienced this situation one or two or three times, and well, it's always the same. So really, it's painful, but it happens, and I guess that having a divorce has to be more or less the same. So it's something that has to be done because there is we are in a point of no return, and this is very important. And this is this painful, but okay, but life goes on, and maybe you must be able to see which is your part of guilt on that. No?
Okay, Ana, what about you?
Yeah, I think that when we started our first company, Starlab, in the Observatory Fabra, up on the top of the Tibidabo mountain, that was in year 2000, those were like the most romantic times in our life, right? We were at the Observatory Fabra, we were super young, everything was to be built. So I think that the beginnings are always romantic and challenging, but they are beautiful and you're so naive. I think that when you need to scale up the company, when you need to make it bigger, when you have to transform yourself from a romantic entrepreneur into a more execution person, I think that becomes harder. But I remember that we used to have to rent projectors by the hours because we didn't have money to buy a projector. So we would just rent a projector by the hour. But I don't know, you're beginning, so it was all exciting and we didn't take it as hard, because you're starting. So I think it's harder when you're scaling, and the more people depend on you, the more sense of responsibility you have. We have more than so many families depending on us that now you really feel more responsible, right? And scaling up and taking the right decisions. Who are your investors? Where do you focus? Where do you invest? Where do you go? Those are like dating decisions which are going to define the future of the company. So I find those strategic decisions to be really important as an entrepreneur because if you marry the wrong investor, it can really ruin your company, right? So who do you partner with? It's really important for the future of the company, and that the ethics and I would never give up on the ethics. So I've been with so many people telling me, Ana, you should do video games, you should get out of health. And it's like, well, I don't care if you don't want to invest, good, but I'm not going to sacrifice the vision I sold to my team because you don't think it's a good vision. I'll find somebody else. So you have to be honest with your team and with yourself, and don't take money from people who want to take you to a place where you don't want to be.
But that's resilience again, right?
Well, an ethical commitment. One of the things I see in the US is that ethics are super important. So it's not only about resilience, it's about who are you. Look what is happening with Facebook. I mean, this is all an ethical debate. So it's not enough to have sales, it's not enough to be a good entrepreneur, but are you behaving right? And I think that's going to play. And I think that one of the reasons why Neuroelectrics is so well recognized in the US is that we've been honest from day one to the FDA, to our clinicians, to our clients, and we haven't diverted one point in what we said we will do. So if we are going medical, we are going medical. We are not taking shortcuts. We are not selling to consumers. So we are not doing anything we shouldn't be doing. And that pays off, down because it's your ethics as a company.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you both for those great insights, those great tips. So now I'd like to address some questions from the audience. So first question, Jose Luis is asking Ana, what do you think are the biggest barrier for startup for digital health startup in Spain? So is it regulation, funding, access to market, clinical trials, like scientific evidence, etc.?
Well, I think it's a combination of all, right? I mean, and it's the same challenge we have in the US. I think digital therapeutics, digital health is a new category. So you need to, it's like walking on the moon. You need to redefine the business models. You need to go through the regulation in a different way. I have good examples here in Boston, like Pear Therapeutics, good friends of mine, Pear or Achille. They went through a lot of trouble, not only on the regulatory side, but what is the business model? How do you make money with these digital interventions? How do you market them and how do you sell them? Companies like Livongo. So this is all things that didn't exist a few years ago. So this is all new grounds. And I think that the most challenging part, I don't think is regulation, is going to be business model and market access. I think that's the game changer for these interventions.
Okay, great. And now we've got a question from Juan, who is asking, so to both of you, do you think that mentors are necessary? Have you had or do you have mentors at the moment?
Well, I think that can
start?
help. Well, yeah, I think that they can help. I think that somebody experience can give you ideas, and I really know that there is a lot of entrepreneurs that do that and work with other people that comes from the industry, and even healthcare industry is very tricky. So having somebody that really knows things helps. I didn't really have any mentors, but I think that I used to. Well, I like to think that I'm helping people to do that, not as a mentor, but as a consultant in some way. So it's having being, and I really love giving my opinion now. As I give my opinion in exchange of money, is still better, no? So that is something that I had to do, and but I really that helps a lot. As I said, you having a voice that really can, a voice that when you have an issue, ask the voice if, okay, this is for being worried or this is nothing. So at least a second opinion voice in the industry can help you a lot. Yes.
Okay, Ana, what do you think about mentors?
Yeah, when I came to the US, I really rely on a lot of mentors on the ecosystem, right? Because it was a new place for me, and there's a lot of very experienced, talented, biotech mentors that I relied on. And I think it's really important when you get into a new field or a new country to have mentors that will guide you through who is who and what to do. But I also think that any entrepreneur and CEO has to listen to mentors and do what you think you should do. And if you're going to fail and make mistakes, you should make them, because it's very easy for people to give advice, but it's very hard as a CEO to implement. And at the end, we are in the war zone, right? So talk to a lot of people, get a good idea of what's going on and your pros and cons, but then do whatever you think you have to do. And if you fail, it's okay. So I think it's very easy. I'm always very scared to give advice, because advice is easy to give. What is really hard is to implement things and execute them. And that's why I respect all entrepreneurs and CEOs, because I think the execution part is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur. It's not the advice or the strategy, it's really doing things.
Exactly. So maybe talking about failure, so second question from Juan is like, what are your insights on failure? Maybe what did you learn from it? Maybe from my side would be like, is there a mistake that you did that actually brought like very positive outcome? Freddy?
Well, in my point is very easy. So as we failed twice until we got the moment and the momentum much better than the moment and the point for Doctoralia. You learn a lot. So you learn that is not your moment. You learn that maybe the things to be done better. So you think in the even your pitch is like a rolling stone. So you just go around and round and round, and every failure is a better new moment to pitch it. So failure is part of the process. I really love the Michael Jordan concept about that he has failed about the 50% of shoots he tried, and 100% of the shoots he didn't try. So and this is about that. It's about trying it, and it's about to see what's the matter, what happens. The A/B test that you do in the product is the A/B test that you must do as a manager, as an entrepreneur, and it's about that. It's about trying it.
Fantastic. Ana?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why people give so much credit to failure when any success is built around 1,000 failures, even in your personal life. I mean, you just, yeah, I'm in neuroscience, so the plasticity of the brain, every failure or success makes new connections in your brain. So this is the way of learning. So I kind of think we should avoid the word failure. We should just say learning process, whatever it means, right? Because I think it's a really demonized bad word for something which is learning.
And don't you think that's actually the concept of failure is different in Europe than in US, for instance?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's true that the Americans, they are more like spaghetti, like throwing something into the wall and see if it sticks. Like, they don't plan so much. It's like learning by doing. But they don't embrace failure so lightly. I mean, I have many entrepreneurs like me in the US, American friends that raised 30 million and their company failed in 1 year. I can tell you they're not happy at all. They do care. So I think that it's also true that maybe the American way is learning by doing, and we Europeans, we need to have plans and everything under control before we even jump into the pool. But I wouldn't say failure is highly rewarded here. I mean, people in the US are behind the success in a way that Europeans are not. So your life and your reputation is dependent on your professional success. So I don't buy the failure part at all.
It's just that I just feel that in the US, when a company fails or they have to close a company, the entrepreneurs, they close one, the next day they start a new company. Well, in Europe, it's like they take it as a failure and then they will maybe go to work for a corporate company, or they will wait some time before starting a new company. That would be my feeling.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's hypocrisy, because these entrepreneurs that you see in the news, he fails, well, they succeed at the end. That's why they have the place in the kingdom of the entrepreneurs. But in the US, it's a very close ecosystem. So, I've been a lot in the Silicon Valley. I talk to these guys. It's reserved to a few, this failing thing. I don't think it's a sport. So if you fail and you talk proudly, it's because at the end you have succeeded. So at the end, they value success. I mean, they will, so I don't know. My perception is that it's not as they sell it to us. I think that here people are competitive, people are aggressive, and the American dream is to succeed. And how many Mark Zuckerbergs and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk are in the US? It's, maybe in these hands. And then there are millions of entrepreneurs that fail and nobody gives them a second chance. So I don't buy
it. Very interesting. Okay, so now just like closing remark, we've at the end of that session. That was very insightful. Thank you really to both of you for that. So maybe your last piece of advice, if we've got entrepreneurs here, maybe also women entrepreneurs, very excited about getting into digital health, what advice would you share with them? Freddy, one short piece of advice.
Just try it and do it and sell it. So you must, you not, I really think that, Ana, what Ana saying is really true, but about the Europeans, we think too much in the things. So we plan too much the things. And then you go against this, maybe not American, but American mind startups and entrepreneurs that are growing around the world. We could say Asia, we could say Middle East, we could say a lot of places. And we are thinking and we are looking for the perfect thing with the perfect moment. My point is, do it, try it, and go for it. And if you fail, just be good enough to think for one moment if you want to go for another round, for another fight, or if you want to go home and go to a corporate. Nobody will ask you. Nobody will regret. Nobody will say nothing. So it's a life decision, but it's your life decision. And for me, it's about that. If you really think that you will when the moment you will die, you will be regretting of not having tried that. Hey, try it. Just try it. Think on that. If you will regret or not.
Great advice. Ana, what's your advice?
Yeah, I think that, in the European Innovation Council, we talk a lot about startups in Europe. And I think that one of the sentences I like is that is untapped excellence everywhere. So talent doesn't know of countries. There's talent and extraordinary people everywhere. So what we need to do is untap that excellence and just help them to succeed, right? And I agree with Freddie that you should really go for it and be ambitious and have a global mind. And I think that the world needs, what we say in Europe is solving relevant problems in a responsible way. We have challenges like healthcare, we have climate change, the pandemic has posed a challenge to the world. So we need these excellent entrepreneurs that in a responsible way are going to address those challenges. So I think it's a beautiful time to be an entrepreneur and an innovator. And people just should go for it because the world needs a new set of entrepreneurs to help us, for the future.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let's change one thing. Let's change the thing, the idea of that in the 21st century we would have flying cars and we have Twitter. Let's change that. Let's try to do relevant things, relevant services, relevant products, and make the quality of life better for the rest of the world. And for me, it's just about that.
Exactly. Well, we'll stay on that. Thank you so much for both of you for your aportation, for sharing your experience, expertise. That was very, very valuable for everybody. So thank you so much, and for you for being here today and for listening to us. And we'll be back next week for our next BHH series, and it will be about investment in digital health. So we'll have a panel with different investors, startup who raised money those past weeks, month. And we will discuss what the situation is looking like and what it will look like in the coming month. So thank you for being here today. See you next week.